The 8-meter Milwaukee magnetic stud tape measure is the go-to for any electrician. There's so many bloody tape measures out there to choose from, but this is why I've gone with the Milwaukee. Also, stick around to the end of the video if you want some tips so you don't look like this on the work site. Pretty much, I've stuck with the Milwaukee tape measure range because it has a really secure belt clip for my tool pouch. This particular model has a really long standout, about 4 meters, which is good for measuring out downlights and other common electrical tasks. It's made out of high quality material built for tradies. Well, at least that's what the marketing says. And my tape measure is easily identified on any work site I'm on because most other tradies use the Stanley FatMax. G'day, I'm Corey, a licensed Aussie Sparky. Alright, so here are some of my old tape measures that I could find. And as you can see, I've got 2 Milwaukees that are either snapped or bent. And you might be wondering, why would I keep going back to the Milwaukee? Well, the latest tape measure that I've got is actually a newer model. They've advertised this new tape measure as a professional tool built for tradies. So it's actually made out of better material. So fingers crossed, it doesn't snap like my old ones, but I do keep going back to the Milwaukees because they feel the best for me. However, if you're not a fan of Milwaukee products, Stanley FatMax is the best next option. I personally don't use them because the belt clip is too loose for my liking. It actually doesn't fit well on my tool pouch, and I wear my tool pouch pretty much 80% of the time I'm on the work site, and I don't want to lose my tape measure. But yeah, any tape measures with similar features as what I'm about to mention with this one will get the job done for any Sparkies out there. So if you're on the search for a new tape measure, just pick one that's within your budget and has similar features. And what I love about this one is it's got a magnetic blade at the end. Really, Sparkies should have a tape measure that is magnetic. I know it can be a little bit of a controversial opinion because being magnetic means it attracts a bunch of dirt and debris and bits of metal and filings, and it can get a little bit dirty at the end, but really it's worth that sort of inconvenience in my opinion, because there are so many times where the magnet will come in handy, like when you're measuring off metal studs. You want a long standout, and the advertisement says this thing stands out like 4 point something meters, and that's pretty bloody long. But here are the results of my in-home test if you're curious. You'll also want anti-tear material at the end of your tape measure. You'll be doing a lot of twisting and turning, and eventually over time it's going to wear and snap and make your tape measure useless. You definitely want a tape measure that is printed double-sided. It is so much more convenient. Here are some basic tips and practical uses for electricians. You may not know, but on the actual tape measure, it gives you the length of the tool, which is handy when you need to measure the length of a room, for example, and you need to rest the tool against a wall. You just get your measurement and then add whatever length the tool is. If you don't know already, the reason the blade at the end of your tape measure moves back and forth is because it takes into consideration the thickness of that blade. So for example, if you're measuring off a wall and you're pushing the end blade against that wall, the blade will move in, giving you an accurate measurement. And if you're measuring by pulling off something, the blade will move out, giving you again that accurate measurement. Here's how you want to typically hold your tape measure. At the bottom of this particular tape measure, there's an easy spot to stop the tape from retracting with your finger, which is really what you want to be doing most of the time. You're never really going to be using this locking mechanism. It's mostly going to be stopping and starting with your finger because that is the most efficient way to use your tape measure. And pretty much you're going to be using your other arm and hand to help the tape measure extend and balance out so that the tape measure doesn't snap and instead continues to stand out. Also, for a little bit of advice, it's probably a good idea to own a couple of tape measures. Your first tape measure being the one you carry around all the time and your good quality one, and the second one being a cheaper tape measure that you'll be using in underground works or more dirtier situations, because dirt and debris getting inside any tape measure is going to ruin it over time. So you may as well keep your more expensive one in good nick while using the cheaper one in rougher situations. For some practical Sparky tips, a good way to find the center measurement of a room is to roughly set up your ladder in the center of the room, get a measurement from one side of the wall to the middle, and get that exact same measurement from the other side of the wall to the middle, and then get the middle measurement between those two markings. And yeah, that's a pretty good way of getting your center measurement. A good tip for getting the measurement of the length of a room from one end to the other and as you sort of bend the tape measure, it has that sort of bend in the tape and you can't get the exact measurement. What you can do is sort of mark towards the end of the wall and then swap the tape measure so the blade is hitting the opposite end of the wall, and then add those two measurements together, and then you'll get the exact length of the room. An easy way for measuring out downlights is to do all your measurements on the ground and then use a laser level to shine up. You can either individually mark each downlight on the ground with a pencil and then laser up, and that's where your downlight is going to be cut out. Or you can do two marks and then laser it between the two marks, and that will give you your straight line of where your downlights need to go. Usually that's what I'll do. If it's a finished floor and you can't mark it, just use some electrical tape and then mark the electrical tape so you won't damage anything. Another good way to mark downlights on the ceiling is to get the measurement for your first downlight. Stick a screwdriver into the plaster to get a hole, and you can actually grab the end of your tape measure on that mark and then pull it back to your next downlight measurement. And this is really efficient if you have a laser level on you, so you can have your straight line, get your first marking, and then move down the line and keep your tape measure in the ceiling on that hook, and then you keep measuring out the rest of your downlights. I can't really show a good example in this video because, for one, I'm not on a work site, and two, I don't really want to start poking holes in my rental. So hopefully this all makes sense to you. It's also useful to understand all the different markings on your tape measure, because you've got some random ass ones that you may not know. For example, on this specific tape measure, you've got black triangle marks every 450 mil and black circles every 600 mil. And pretty much what that does is give you the rough spacings of studs. I personally don't really use these markings, as I like to use a stud finder or a magnet if I'm trying to find the studs to 100% make sure I'm not cutting into any framing. You've also got a few other measurements down here. Sort of the Roman numeral 2 gives you the accuracy level of your tape measure, 1 being the best, 3 being the worst, I guess. And this one in particular is a 2, which most tape measures are rated at a 2. So if you want something a little bit more accurate, maybe look for that 1. Also, I forgot to mention this at the start, this tape measure is measured in metric. So mils, not imperial, which is inches. And metric is obviously so much easier because you're not dealing with fractions. I think I've covered the bare basics of tape measures and its uses for electricians. At the end of the day, find something that's within your budget, that feels good. I guess the three main things you're looking for are tear resistance, magnetic, and a long reach. And as with anything, practice makes perfect. Cheers for watching. Please give this video a like if you got something out of it. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. You can check out my other videos here if you had the time. And yeah, appreciate it.